Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, American Gothic. It's one of those names and one of those covers that I always was aware of when I was growing up, and I wanted to know what that film was about. I know I watched it years ago on video, and I have no memory of it, and that's why I'm like, you really need to watch that film again. I know Yvonne De Carlo was in it, and I forgot Rod Steiger was in it, and I just realised that when I found it on YouTube. I'm like, oh, Rod Steiger was Pa. I guess I wasn't as aware of him when I watched the film the first time. Must have been before I saw the original Amityville, because I saw the sequels first, and I had trouble finding the original Amityville for years. Just video availability in my hometown and so forth. Yeah, it's a really weird film. It's an interesting film. It's not your typical slasher. It is a horror, but it's kind of disturbing and weird and kind of juvenile in some ways and unsophisticated in some ways, but it's kind of interesting. Basically, there's a girl. I had so much trouble finding sympathy for this fictional woman. She's bathing her baby in the bath, and she goes downstairs to answer the phone and gets distracted with the cooking, and she comes upstairs, and of course her baby's drowned. Well, that's what happens when you leave a baby in a bath for 5-10 minutes. So I was literally like, oh no, sorry, you deserve it. Sorry, no, no sympathy there. And her and 5 friends basically take a trip, a holiday to, I don't know where they're heading, but they don't make it there. They have troubles. They board a little light airplane, which my cousin used to fly, so I've flown in them a couple of times. They're terrifying. And they end up landing on this island, and they're looking around. They find an old house, and the house has Yvonne De Carlo and Rod Steiger. They're playing Ma and Pa, and they don't like to be referred to as anything other than Ma and Pa. And at first they just go into these people's house and they start making fun of all their old style clothes and gramophone and all that, and they have a little party. And of course the owners walk in, and these guys are yuppie, stuck up people, and they're just offensive and condescending, and Ma and Pa do their best to be hospitable and kind, and they're just mocking them the whole time, and they are out of touch with the world, but they clearly want to be. They don't want to know about what's happening in the outside world. This is their choice. They're not stupid or ignorant. They're choosing to live in a bubble, clearly. And then after quite a while, they stumble across a daughter who is at least 50, but wearing a little girl dress and bows in her hair, and is just totally infant-like. That's disturbing. And then not long after that, we find a brother who's played by the same guy who played John in Miri from Star Trek, the original series. And then we stumble across a second brother, a third child, and they're all in their 50s, and they all act like children, but they're all in their 50s. And one of the girls are all very judgmental and anxious. There's a couple of guys, and one of them, he finds it amusing, and he actually finds 2 of them playing on a swing, and he gets on the swing, and then they proceed to swing him so high that he can't get off, and then the other one releases the swing, and he flies off a cliff and dies, basically. So they actually kill someone outright, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is not going to be some weird deliverance accidental sort of situation. These guys are killers. They do find out they have been killing people over the years. Anyone who comes onto the island, they've been killing them. So they eventually hunt them down, and it ends up being the one girl, the one who had the trauma of losing the child, who actually gets brought into their little family and starts to act like one of them, that she dressed up like a little girl. And eventually, though, the daughter, who has a baby who has actually died and been mummified, that they keep treating like a live baby, she gets triggered by that, and then traumatized by that further by their relationship with that, and she has a break, and she actually ends up killing everyone else. So it's got an interesting twist where it starts off where the family is killing everyone, sort of Deliverance style, but in this warped, living in a bubble, people acting like children, weird sort of way, and then eventually the girl joins them, and then she turns on them, and it's interesting. It's an interesting film. It's a weird film. It's a disturbing film. It's some of the writing's very simple and very clumsy, but the story and what happens is really interesting and disturbing. So it all works. Yvonne is great. Rod is great. The other actors are good, and it is a weird, disturbing film to watch, and it's a good film. So I'm glad I finally watched it. Didn't remember what it really was about, and was surprised by a lot of it. But yep, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of American Gothic. It is a classic. It is its own weird little universe, and you know, I would watch it if you haven't watched it. And I'm going to have to buy the DVD or Blu-ray and have it permanently in my collection, not just, you know, available on YouTube to watch.